don't think there is any system today that whenever they are creating any new user, we don't accept passwords. So in our previous listing, this is what we had, the structure that we have from Pydantic model, that we're going to have just first name, last name, and then email. So there is no password when we are creating these users, right? So we need to update things so that we can actually accept password, so that user will now enter password before when they are creating, so that later on we can use that password to validate them into the system. That's one something more appropriate and basic that should be happening whenever you are creating a new user into a database. So we are going to be storing this password into the database, right? So we need to create a table. We need to have a column for it. So if you need to have a column for the database, where should we go to? We need to go to the model, the database model that we have, and update it to have a particular section that we'll be having. So we need to start. We don't need to go to the database itself, but we need to go to our database models here, so that Pydantic will be the one to create the column, like how we've been learning so far. So far we have email, first name, and last name, right? So we need to add another column that will be about taking password. So let's say password equals to, so it's going to be another column, and that column will also be, it's a password is going to be a string, right? String data types. That's what we'll be having in that particular column. So this is it. We have the column for passwords right now. Now we need to also update. This is updating the database so that it will have a new column from the database. But then at the front end, you need to go to the Pydantic model, right? So that you alert the front end that it is not just first name, last name, and email. I mean, that is what we are seeing here. First name, last name, and this thing is coming from not from the database, but it's coming from the Pydantic model that we created. So since we have updated our model, our database table or model to be having password, we need to also enter here password, so that it will show at the front end that yes. So it's also be a string. This string is small, str string. So this is what we have right now, right? So we are going to run this. We are going to run this thing again, so that at the front end we'll see this coming. So Uvicorn main app. So we'll run this. Yeah, so it's complete now. I'm going to here and then refresh this. Now I'm going to try it out. Now you can see password has been added. Password has been added, meaning that we are going to do this looking for password as well, right? So first name, this is from the Pydantic model. I want you to take note of that very well. What we are seeing here is from Pydantic model, not the database model. The database one, whenever you update the database one, is going to focus on how SQL Alchemy will take things to the database. But the Pydantic model is interested in how data should come in, the structure in which data should come in, and the structure in which data should go out. And right now we just have a structure of how data will come in. Later we'll focus on how data will go out. So let's still go back to our main file, and then since we are now having a password column, what we have to do is that, let me close this very well and lower this for us. Now the new model, the user model, is now having another column. So user email, first name, last name, right? This is what we have from the user model. So the user model, but right now we just added a password. So it means that when we are going to interact with the database using this user model, we need to add another thing called password. So it's going to be comma password equals to user dot password from the front end as usual. This is going to be coming from the front end as usual. So whatever the password the user you enter, we are going to be having it here, right? Okay, I want you to take note of this thing as well. This is our main file, right? At the top, let's go to our database model, right? Here you see this create engine and all that, right? Let's move it to the main file. So I'm going to put it here at the top, as V, so that this one will be creating all the engine. There's this thing. So let's database model from database is from database, right? We have to import the engine and then the base. So base and engine, the two of them are from there, so we need to have them here. So I'm going to back to the database mode. I've cleared something here. So if you go to the top, you see that the engine is now, we are not using the engine. So let's let it out. And we have been using the flow so far. I have not used it, but I will keep it. Oh, okay. So let's go back to the main file. So let's keep this at the start here so that whenever you run the file, right, it will create all database table that we'll be doing in future and quickly before continuing. Great. So now we know that we have added a password column. But then let me open my database so far. This is the structure of the database that I have here. I have these people. I have an ID, email, first name, last name. I have anything, and Francis and Benson. I have added, so I have 3 people. So I have ID, email, first name, last name. There's no password column here yet, right? So when we go here, we are going to see that our user model has ID, email, first name, last name, and password that we just added, but it's not yet in our database. So let's try to run this and see if something will happen. So let me stop running this thing, clear the terminal, and now I'm going to run the app again. Hoping that some changes will happen in the database. So let's go to main. This is what we have, right? So let me run this again. Uvicorn. I've run my Uvicorn. Yes. So let's go to the database and see if, let's refresh. So for the refresh, just go here. There is a play button here. Just click on that play button, and then we see ID, email, first name, last name, and there's no password column here yet, even though we have rerun the distance. We'll talk about making changes with Alembic later. That's what will make the automatic changes. But then we know that the front end is going to be sending a password, but the database is not having a column for database. But then let's just try creating a new user with that and see if we miss any error. So I'm going to the front end. Let me refresh again. Now I'm going to try it out. Let me add a new person. Let the person called Junior, and then string last name, let me say Ado. So for the email, I'm going to use junior@gmail.com, and the password, I'm going to enter 123456 just as their password. Okay, let me execute. Let's see what will happen. Internal server error. So let's go to our code and see. So what are they telling us here? Let me straight this up. So yeah, there's an error around this guy. There's no password column. So when the database was going to insert into users, right, it has found for email, first name, last name, but for password, there's nowhere that they are going to put the password, because if you go to the database, that column is not available. You can see. Let me refresh again. That column is not available here, so this database is finding difficult. So even though we have added the change here, in the database model, right? Remember, first when we started, we were starting with this, so at the start this table was created using this 3. So adding this new column to it here doesn't mean that when SQL Alchemy is going, it's going to automatically do that. You have to tell it how to do that. I will do that in another session. But right now, since the table has been created already with all these things, so what will happen is that at this point we haven't learned about Alembic yet. So what will happen is that since we have made a new change, we are going to clear the table. We are going to delete the table. Let's delete the table and make sure that the SQL Alchemy will create it again whenever you run the app again. So basically that's what we are going to do. So first I'm going to stop running this terminal now. It's running. So how do you stop it? It's Control C. Press Control C to stop the app from running. Now I'm going to my database here. I'm going to the table itself, select this one, and click on delete here. I'm going to click on delete, and after you delete here, I have save data changes. I'm using an older version, so maybe if you do it, it runs automatically. That's fine. So save data changes. I click on the save data changes, and then you see it has been cleared. Now my database is cleared, right? So I'm going to the table here, right? Maybe I shouldn't even have done that in first at the first place. I should have just gone here, right? Click here, click on delete, search for delete. Yeah, delete is here. So right, I'm going to delete the table. So I'm deleting the entire table altogether. Now the table is deleted. So if I open this table now, I'm now going to my this thing and run the app again. So when I'm running this app, everything will be, the database and everything will be created again. So now let me go back to my database and hoping that things will change this time. Yeah, so I just refresh here and you can see after refreshing we have ID, email, first name, last name, and password is now having a portion in is on its own as well, right? So this database is not updated. Let me see. Let's forget about this. I want to refresh the database table. It's not showing automatically here, right? Let me expand this. Go to table, right click on it, click on refresh. You refresh the table, open it. Now I have it. I have users, right? I have users. Okay, so with this user now, I'm now trying to right click and open it, view all rules. Then what do I have? Yeah, so I have ID, email, first name, last name, and password. Now we know that this is ready. Now password has the column has been updated in the database. So let's go back to the front end and then run this particular thing again. So we are going to run this guy again. So I'm going to execute. Let's see. Yeah, it's done. So you can see we have something returned for us, a response body fully returned for us. So it works. So let's go to the database and see those changes. How do we see those changes? I'm going to run it, click here. Yeah, so you have junior, you have ado, and then you have the password 12345 6. Now this is where password hashing come in. The password as the user has given us from the front end, this is exactly how it is looking in the back end. This is not a safe way to do that. You need to actually hash it in a way that this password is following a particular algorithm to have a different face altogether. So we are going to focus on that hashing now. Now that we're able to create a user password, we are now going to hash the password before storing them. So let me go to the main file. So this is my main file. We go to the top again, right? Now remember we downloaded something that we said that is going to be handling password hashing for us. That thing was passlib dot contest. We are going to import something from the password manager. From there is going to be crypt contest. Yeah, crypt contest. This is what crypt contest. This is what we are importing. The crypt contest is the one responsible for it's like the password manager is a contest. So when you say a contest, it's just like an environment where a particular set of rules are set to in order to perform a particular function. Here we are downloading a cryptographic contest. We are importing a cryptographic contest basically from the password library. Basically, this is what we downloaded some time ago when we started the project. So we need this particular dot contest. We needed this contest from it, cryptographic contest from it, right? So but then now we need to create a password contest itself for our database. So I'm going here after this function. Let me put a command here, creating a password contest variable. So I said a contest, I define a contest already. So let's say pass underscore contest. That's the name of our variable, will be equal to. Now look at how we are going to use that cryptography that we just imported. Now it comes with some algorithm. It comes with some argument that you need to set. The algorithms includes the first the arguments, not algorithm. So it's schemes, right? You come with schemes, which is a one of the argument that you need to pass, and that scheme should be in square brackets, and the name of the algorithm that to run in this scheme or in this context will be bcrypt. You remember how we when we downloaded the bcrypt, right? Bcrypt is not bcrypt, bcrypt. So it's the cryptography algorithm that we've downloaded already. So that's what we'll be using. And then we are going to add something called deprecated, right? Will be equal to auto. We are setting it in auto, but why am I adding this? This means that in future or later on when we want to change, we can decide to we might later decide to change the bcrypt algorithm to another existing algorithm, right? So if you are doing that, the deprecated auto will make sure that when you change the algorithm, the system, the context will detect that okay, they have been changed, so the old bcrypt is deprecated from the system. It will be done automatically, detected that it is deprecated automatically. So when it is now validating the new user, the user again, it will now use the new algorithm to update the password, to include the password. A bcrypt is one of the solid algorithm that is standard now, that is very good, and make sure that password hashing is actually secure from all attacks, right? So this is what we are going to use, the one powerful one. So I recommend for now, at the time I'm doing this video, that we use bcrypt for now. Maybe in future a more solid one will come on, but bcrypt is a standard one for now. And deprecated is to help to automatically detect that whenever we make change to the algorithm later on, and so that the system itself will automatically adjust and use the new algorithm and change all the old ones already. That's what deprecated will be doing for us. So I hope that helps. So we have a password contest now. This is what we'll be using to make all the how do you call it, hashing, all the hashing for us. So now how do we get the hashing password? So what we will do is that let's now use this thing for the first time by pass contest, right? We are going to the user here. Before we even create the user model, I'm going to add hashing. So let us hash the password first. So I'm going to create a variable called hashed underscore password. So when the user, what the user is sending from front end, we are not going to send it directly here. We are not going to send it directly here, but we are going to hash it first. So when we are going to hash, you need to use the pass context that we use, pass underscore context. That's be the one that will hash the things for us. So we use hash dot hash. That's what we'll do it, and then we will now take the user dot password here. So the user dot password from the front end, right? Yeah, so we're passing it to hash it first. After you hash it, now when you come here, you don't need to pass the user dot password directly, but then you need to pass the hashed password. Yeah, you need to pass the hashed password, and this is what you store in the database, right? And that's the secure way. So first you need to go and hash the password first using the Passlib contest thing that we downloaded and set so far using this variable, right? Using this algorithm. So this is what we prepare. You prepare it, then you'll be using it anywhere that you want to hash the password. So this is what the hash password. Now you store the hash password. You don't store the user password directly. Like later on when we are doing the login thing, we will see how to verify it. But right now we are hashing it. So let's do it step by step. Okay. So now this is ready. This is ready. So changes have been made. Let's go to the front end, and now let me open this. Let me refresh this. Whenever I make change, I come here and refresh myself purposely. So I'm going to set a new person. Let me say Angela, and then So Angela Bush, yes. So the email will be something like angela@gmail.com, and the password I will do 123456. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to execute this. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so it's done. So you can see the password that we get now from the database. You get the ID. Now the password is now something 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 here, something 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 here. So something in end, it's end to what? GARK, right? GARK. Very good. Let's go to the database and see. Let me refresh the database. Yeah, so this is the first one. The junior one is having 1 2 3 4 5 6. But then when you come to this guy, the Angela, you see we have hashed password the same way we entered 1 2 3 4 5 6, but right now we are not having 1 2 3 4 5 6 directly, but we are having a hashed password. Let's see the let's see something. We are going to create another user again, right? Let me say Courage. Like let's say Courage Bush. He to use this person to use Courage Bush, right? I'm going to do courage@gmail.com. So I'm going to use the same password 1 2 3 4 5 6, right? So you see, remember Angela is, let's, you can take a picture of this, maybe the one that we have, right? We are using the same password, and I'm going to execute this. You see, oh, the password, the first one for from Angela was GARK, but right now see Courage Bush same 1 2 3 4 5 6, but then we are using QC something at the end, right? So it's totally different from the first person, even though the passwords are the same. Okay, so that's what hashing helps. So let me run this. Yeah, so this is what we have from the this thing into the database now. So we are not just storing raw password, but we are storing how do you call it, hash password. So I'm going to clean this row. I'm going to delete this guy and save the changes. Cool. So now I have those password that are hashed into the database. How did we do that? So this is how we do it. You have to just basically import the context, and then this is how you store the context. You create the context as instance or context variable. Then we're using this pass context into the database. You use it to hash, so password context dot hash to use as a password, and you store that hash password here, and every other thing looks the same. So now at this stage we all know how to now hash our password, and we know that it's not good to just basically store the raw password into the database. We'll later see how to retrieve that, but then we need to now worry about how to make changes. Now before I go, right, I want to show you something. See, when we're returning the this thing, when we're returning the this thing, right, when we created the user, see what happens. See the listen, the password is also coming to the front end. We don't need that. This password should never come out. When you create the user every time, right, the password should stay in the database, and you, whenever the user wants to log in, we use the password that the one they will bring, and add it and go and check it in the validating the database. We don't need to be sending the password out. This calls for us to define how data will come out, how user data will come out, right? We need to define how user data will come out now, so that password will not be part. That's what we need to do. So to define how data will go in and go out, remember we use pedantic models. So this is class for user in. So I'm going to create another class. So I'm going to say class user out. If you guess it's correct, yeah, that's what I was with base model as well. So here, how user will come out here, we can take the first name out, right? Fine, first name will come out. Maybe the user will have an ID, remember, so ID will come out. Yeah, we accept ID, that will come out. Is the ID is an integer, right? So it was an integer, so we take the integer out. And then email, yes, the emails, yes, let's take the email out. You take the email out. Last name, yes, let's take the last name out. but we don't take the password out. So user out. So you see that the user in is taking in password, but when we are taking out, we did not to include password. So the user out will be that. How do we now do that? So you have to go to the main, right? The main. What we will do is that you go to define how data will go out, right? This is what you do. We go to here, this place, the endpoint, inside the endpoint. After the raising the part, comma, let's write response model. So you select response model from the distance. The response model should be user out. So they say user out is not defined because we haven't imported it. So we go where user in is, right? Comma. We import also user out. Yes. So now you see in our this thing now the user out is now is the response model from this endpoint. So the response model define how the format in which or which pedantic model will be used or which the model in which the data will come out. That's the response model from this endpoint basically. So even though everything is coming from here, this new user, everything that will come from it will be compared or yes against this guy, the user out, and user out will now allow the one that the pedantic model allow. So even though we are returning this, the return response will be used. First, we are not having a response model. That's why it was just coming out. But now we have a response model, which is by our pedantic model. Now the user out will follow this format. So let's go back to the front end and then refresh. I'm going to try another thing. What name should I use? Yes, let me use Francis Benson. The email is francis@gmail.com. The string, I'm still going to use my 1 2 3 4 5 6 because they are not going to 2 3 4 5 6. They are not going to be the same. So I'm going to execute this. Yes. So when I execute this, you see what comes out. Now I have first name, I have the ID, I have the email, I have the last name Benson coming out. You see this time the password is not yet out. The password is not out. Right. So the front end, whenever you send the password to the back end, you don't need to send it out. You only validate things with it. You keep it in the back end. Right. So we go back to our database. Let me refresh this. Yeah, you see Francis is here and then the paste password is here, but this password never came out because we are using it against a response model with user out, and user out is going to be from the pedantic model, and when we're defining it we never included the password. But whenever if you include the password, it will follow. If you include the password, it will follow. Yeah, basically. So the user in, yes, we take password, but when we are taking user out, the password is not in the list of the model that should go out. And then how do you put that inside? I'm going over that again. You have to define a response model in the endpoint directly, and that response model should take the model, the pedantic model that you have, so that whenever something is coming in, it will follow the user out model that you have defined in your pedantic model. Yeah, so we keep that in mind. That's the structure to do the right thing. Okay. Yeah, so in the next session we'll look at how to make automatic changes to the tables, right? You see, when we started, we were having problems here where we had to delete the table, and then before including the password, this thing. What if you have a large data set of a lot of users already? Should we go and delete the table before adding a new column? I don't think that should be the right thing. So let's do that in the next session.